Hey everybody, so we made it. It is Saturday evening and we're going to go ahead and stitch up a notebook cover in the hoop. I'm super excited this week because I figured out how to flip the camera angle so you're not looking at backwards. So that's pretty exciting. And Jenny, if you see this, I can tell you how to fix that too, so we're not backwards with everything. So I was pretty excited about that. Before we jump into this, I'm going to kind of go over a couple of the sizes. When you look at the listings on the website for the notebook covers, they come up, there's two sizes available. There is a mini and there is an A6 cover. So I'm going to do the A6 today. That's appropriate for a 6x10 hoop. It's a little bit bigger. The mini is appropriate for a 5x7 hoop, and obviously it's smaller. A lot of times with it, people get confused with what it will actually hold, because when you make these, here's one I finished before. When you make these, you're making it in your hoop like this, if you can see. So that's why, even though the notebooks themselves are a lot smaller, it needs to be the 6x10 size for the A6 so that this fits inside. Okay, so even though this is smaller, this is like 4 3/4 by 6. It's not gonna fit on a 5x7 hoop because of the way that it's made like this. The difference between the two, show you them together. So this is the A6, or the A6 rather, and this is the mini. So you can see there's a big difference there with those. My daughter loves this size, so it's great for kids or whatever to stick in your bag for little journals and things like this. This is a little bigger, so if you're really a planner or things like that, it's great for that. So again, it's made like this in the hoop. And the inside, there's going to be 2 pockets that's going to hold the flap of, if I can get it out here, the flap of the cover just kind of slides in. So, and on the back, there is an elastic closure tacked on the elastic on this, and then it closes that way. I also have a snap kind of add-on there. If you like the look of just having like a snap on the front so that you're not covering the design up, that's an option too. We're going to go with the elastic tonight, so that is kind of how most of them go, so you can see how it goes. I think that's the confusing part for a lot of people, is how to get this elastic on and keep it out of the way when you stitch it around. So for my materials, we're going to need, I think, for the biggest piece for the 6x10, I should have looked at the directions. I want to say it's 7x11, and this is going to be what's going to be your front cover. I'm going to use cork on mine, and then you're going to need a piece of backing. I'm going to use something called Olifun, and I'll tell you, I learned about it today. This will melt if you try to iron it, so don't try to iron it, because apparently I didn't look at what it's made of, and it's like 100% like polyethylene or something, which is plastic. So it's kind of wrinkled, and I was like, well, I'll just hit it with an iron, right? No, don't do that. So now I've ironed to clean up the plastic on it. So this is nice to use on the backing piece, which will be on the inside to kind of cover the stitching. Here, obviously I didn't do a good job tearing on my stabilizer, but here we go. It covers the stitching up, and it's nice, so you're not using a lot of layers on it. So you can use felt on that too, or you can use vinyl. I just prefer to use a little thinner because no one's gonna see it. It's just to cover those stitches up. We're going to need 2 pieces. They're going to be our pockets. I think these are 4x7 for the A6. Go with what the tutorial says on that one for sure. But these are going to be our 2 pockets. And then we're going to have another smaller piece, which is 2x2 for both sizes. That's going to be covering the elastic when we tack it down. So let's see. All right. So, and fold over elastic. So for the A6, you're gonna need a 12-inch piece of 1/2 inch wide fold over elastic. You can use a little bigger if you've got like, even 3/4 of an inch is totally fine. Just use what you have. Some people just use kind of regular elastic. If I even have any in here. Yeah, I do. Just like this braided elastic too. If you can't find any of the fancy stuff, you can just pick up this from the craft store. This comes in a few colors too, but I found a really cool shop on Etsy that has like just a lot of awesome patterns with this one. If you can see, it's like floral and stuff, so I like that. We're going to use that tonight, and it was pretty inexpensive too, so I kind of stocked up on it. Hi Pam. So those of you guys that watched weeks ago on my old janky machine, that, oh, funny story. So if you remember, my machine was being ridiculous, and I took it to the shop to service, right? And it was going to be till almost May to get it done. I get a phone call yesterday. I swear, your machine's done. So we went from April 27th to me having the machine done now. So I haven't picked it up. I'm using my new machine. It is a baby lock flare, and so far it's been awesome. So this will probably be my primary machine now, but I figured it'd be good to queue back up anyways, so we're not having to shuffle things around and me not being potentially out of a machine for 2 months or whatever it is. So this is, yeah, it's been kind of a crazy week. So I went ahead and stitched out the first step, which is just going to be your placement stitching on the stabilizer. And you'll notice on these, there's a lot of color changes through the steps. You don't need to do all the color changes, especially when it's like the actual construction pieces. It's just so that your machine stops. So if you want to go ahead and just figure out like through the color chart, like what your next color for the design portion is going to be, go ahead and just put that in your machine first of all, so you're not having to change constantly. Hi Tracy. Christy, right? I don't even know what's going on, but I'm happy with the baby lock. It's just really nice. It's quieter. It actually has a color sort option, which is cool. So I didn't have that before, my brother. So I can load up a bunch of different designs for snap tabs or bookmarks on it, and it just color sorts for me. And I thought that was like super cool. So I was excited about that. So we have our first step run, and I'm going to take my first big piece of vinyl cork, whatever. It's our, if I read my directions, I want to say 7 by 11. This is going to be our front piece. I know I am glad about the website. Yeah, all these are going to be on the website. I'm going to do the floral one today because it's a pretty quick stitch out. But all the notebook covers, if you go to my website, there's actually a tab under embroidery designs that has notebook covers. So this step by step will work for any of them. It's just the design portion on the front of the cover will be different. So, but this is to show you the assembly part. So, yeah, the actual design isn't in the files. You have to purchase it on the website. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and lay down my first big piece. I'm just going to use a little bit of 505. You can tape it on too, whatever your preference is. And you're going to place that first piece directly over those placement stitches. So it's covering all your stitches on the machine, or on the hoop rather. I can't talk tonight. And we're going to go ahead and put that back on. And then it's going to start stitching the first part of our design. So for the flower one, it's going to be these darker flowers. So we're going to pop that in and let that stitch out. Good. So Lorraine, I'm glad. I've liked the baby lock so far. I haven't stitched out too much. I have it on a much higher speed than I normally would stitch at. I like to stitch slower, but I figure this way we're not waiting 20 years for the design to stitch out. So, oh, thank you, Christy. So hopefully this says 4 minutes on this, but I do have the speed turned up a little faster than I normally would go. And this is, yeah. This is the awkward part, like where it's all, we're gonna wait for it to stitch out. Hi Dee Dee. I'm glad to be back in action too. So I got this at, I'm saying it properly, Lebeau Sewing Center. They're in Michigan and they were awesome. They got this to me like super quick. It was like, I got it within 48 hours just about of ordering. So highly recommend them. It stitches like a dream. So we are back in business. I'm just getting anxious that it's going so fast. And whoever told me about the trick about not putting the cap on the thread, you were a lifesaver. I was kind of nervous. Like, well, it's going to come off, but it's been great and no more catching on the thread on there. So thank you, whoever told me that. Hi, Katie. Learning all kinds of new things this week. Don't iron ollie fun. Take the spool cap off. And we're on to the second part here. Oh, I'll show you some of the fold-over elastic I got from the shop. And I'll link it. I'll put a link up like in the event of the group. But like, look, this fun blood spatter. Fun for like some of the true crime stuff. There's the skull and crossbones. There is little doggy paws, which is super cute. Pineapples. There's some succulent ones in here too. I got so many of them. I kind of went overboard, but I'm good on fold-over elastic for a long time. Like I said, it wasn't expensive at all, and I think it's sold by the yard. And with the A6s, you just need 12 inches, so you can get 3 A6 notebooks out of a yard of this. With the 505, I kind of just wave it around to kind of get it mostly dry. That's why I shake like an idiot. And I don't use a whole lot of it either. I just like a quick spritz. So usually I've tested it like, and it's usually pretty dry, just kind of a little tacky before I stitch on it. But I don't use a lot at all. And just make sure when you're using fiber spray, you don't spray it anywhere near your machine. Like I make sure that it's kind of far away and I just spray on the back of the material that I'm using. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. All right, so now we're on to our next color, which is gonna be the lighter green and the rose. Let's see. Should I use like, let's see, should we use like this mint or like this lime? What do you guys think? Hi, Vivian, we're glad you're here. We're not too far in, so you're good. Any preferences here? I'm kind of leaning towards the lime. I think I'm gonna use the lime. Lime's always a good choice. All right. See, we're like back and forth with mint and lime. Yeah. All right, let's see. Did you know? Didn't thread. You little liar. There we go. Now we're threaded. All right, on to the third step, which is the second green. Camera, yeah, I can see if I can. Let's see, can I bring you over? Is it, I'm backwards now. Not like we're all up close and personal. Can you guys see that without being too, I don't know if it's, can you see that okay, Freddie? Diane, I am making a notebook cover. It's not this design. It is like the rose one that I have on my website because it's a much quicker stitch out. But I'm making the A6 size of the rose notebook cover. Okay. All right, good, Freddie. And I'll scoot it back when I get to the next part too, but this way you can stare at the machine stitching and not at my face. Because this part's supposed to like a 9-minute long stitch out, but I don't know. I don't know, since I have the speed changed on here. We'll see if it actually takes 9 minutes. Oh no, it says 5 minutes. I can't read. Yeah, Denise, my machine is just an embroidery only machine. So I'm a bag maker at heart. I have a couple domestic machines and I have an industrial sewing machine. I've had one combination sewing embroidery machine, but I was kind of terrified to use it for sewing considering what I do. Because I just know that if you hit a zipper, sew a lot of zippers, or any hardware, I just was afraid of kind of throwing the whole timing out on the embroidery thing. So I've never had a combo machine that I used for both. I just use one or the other on them. Hi, Nikki. This is a Baby Lock Flare. It has, so one of the features I didn't know about until after I bought it was it has the Wi-Fi drop, so you can just transfer machines directly from your computer to the machine without using a USB, which, I mean, it's kind of cool, and I've used it, but I don't know that I would like seek out that as to be like a deciding factor for a machine for me. I know there were some questions about that before in the group when we're talking about models, but I mean, it's kind of cool, but it shouldn't be a deal breaker. Combos are cheaper. You know, I don't know because I never really priced them. My first machine that I had was a 4x4 Brother machine. It was like, I don't know, like the SE400 or something. And I got it just for embroidery because I was sewing by that time. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think some of the combo ones are typically a little higher end machines, so they may be more expensive, but I'm not 100% sure on it. Oh, Kim, thank you. I have a really weird sense of humor, as you may have noticed, those of you that are around for a while. I just find, I don't know, off-color, kind of silly stuff funny. And my 12-year-old thinks that I have no sense of humor, and I like dad jokes, which I do like dad jokes, but he's not amused by it. I think I'm pretty funny. Do you think they're more expensive? Yeah, I don't know for sure, so I would defer to someone that's priced both of them. I knew there was a question in the group the other day about asking, you know, what combo machine to get for 2K or less, and I know that I recommended like sticking with like getting a $15 machine and then getting maybe, you know, a less expensive sewing machine. So Janome is the combo. Tracy, do you know how much about yours was, if you don't mind sharing, just so we can get the ballpark for some of the combo machines, the price wise? Oh, Kim, that's a good idea too. You haven't used the Wi-Fi yet either. Yeah, I did it because I wanted to figure it out, but the thing is too, this machine is kept downstairs and my computer and workspace is upstairs when I do computer work. And so I have to like run down here, turn the machine on, and then run back upstairs, transfer the designs. And I'm like, I'm just kind of lazy and I just didn't want to go through that many steps. But it'd be cool if like you were in the same space, or if you didn't have a USB handy, that would be nice too. Doing this sideways so I'm not like totally in the screen. It's a lot of thread I pulled off there. Let's see. All right, did I just unthread it again? I sure did. There we go. All right, on to the first color of the flowers. There's just two colors here for the flowers. The Viking, I've heard Viking topazes are really nice too. Yeah, so it does sound like the combos are a lot more expensive for the most part. Uh-oh, what happened? Oh, nothing, I don't know. It sounded weird for a second. Yeah, Tracy, I think I'm just chicken. I'm just so afraid I'm gonna like break something. I tend to break things a lot, so I just think I was chicken about it. So I just never used them that way. Why are you sounding like you're angry? Stitching fine. I don't like stitching so fast either. I'm gonna slow it down. This makes me nervous. It's just like going so fast. Let's see. I'm gonna slow it down a little bit. Okay, then I'll quit being so anxious about it. Hi, Barb. Yeah, we're fortunate over here. Machines tend to be a little cheaper than over in the UK or even in Canada or Australia or anywhere else in Europe for that matter. So we are kind of fortunate that way. No, I think it's like, I have this thread cap here, and this is, so I had it on authority that this type of thread is not preferred by this machine. So, I mean, it's stitching okay, so we'll see. Like, I'll buy new thread if I have to, but I would much prefer to kind of make what I have work. So I'm not like wasting all this thread. And this is like the third thing I made on this, so I think I'm still trying to figure some of that out too. This is some, you're gonna laugh at me because this is some cheap stuff I got on Amazon. It like came in a big box. I've had it for years. What is this? Oh, here it is. Here's like part of the box. Embroidery. Yeah, you can go the wrong way. And I heard that I probably should get better thread for this. It's a little finickier with thread, but we'll see. Yeah, I think that's a good price on that machine too, Renee. All right, so we're on to the second flower color, and then after this stitches out, we will be good to go ahead and start assembling the whole thing. All right, I'm gonna use, what am I gonna use? So light purple, we'll see if this shows up. I think I'm gonna check the back, right? No, we're good. I don't know why, I think it just was going so fast. No, I don't know what you're beeping at me for. All right, so now we're on to the second color of the flowers. Yeah, Vivian, I really liked my brother too, until it just wasn't working anymore. And they said that it was just the tension, the top tension was off and the bottom tension was off, which is probably something I could have fixed, but I'm just not comfortable with messing with the tension on an embroidery machine. If it's a sewing machine, I'd be like, all right, like that's great, I'll fix that. But I just was like, no, I'll just take it in. And it needed to be serviced anyways. I don't know that I've ever even had it serviced, and I've had it like 2 years, so. And these are pre-filled bobbins I'm using too, and to be honest, I didn't even check to see if they're the right fit for this machine. I mean, so far so good, but I probably should check that out to make sure it's appropriate for this model of machine. It's just what I had on my brother, and everything else kind of seems the same, so I assumed, but. Oh, they are interchangeable? Good. Okay, so I'm good because I have a huge box of like pre-wound bobbins sitting over there. And I kind of assumed they were interchangeable, but A15, I wonder what I have. What do I have? Yep, that's exactly what I have. You're on it. Class A, size 15, that's what's over there. All right, so we're almost done with the long part. Stuck in a jump there. So I go. No, we're not stuck. It's just in the way. See, if I was being smart, I would have trimmed. There's only a couple jumps on this design. There's not really very many, but I should have just trimmed them before I moved on, but I didn't. Oh, I see the issue. Looking at that, my thread shredded like bad. Let's see. All right, come on. Come on out. I'm gonna get this stuck on the first day. Should never pull your thread out this way, but here we are. Holy crap. So, yeah, that was my issue. You can see my thread was shredding in there, so that's why it was sounding so weird. It didn't snap, but it frayed like the crap, so it's probably not as dense of a stitch as it should be, but here you go. You get the idea. You can see there. So here's where we're at. I'm going to take a second and I'm going to trim up the couple jumps that there are there. And then we're going to go on to get ready to put our elastic on the back. But that's why it was sounding so funky. All right, I think I got them all. One little tiny piece that I can't see. Yep, so we're good. There's really not a whole lot of jumps on that one, so we're good there. Yeah, I don't think it likes this thread. We're gonna muddle through, and I guess I'm gonna have to order some better thread, unlike the cheapy Amazon stuff that I got. But we are good. So here's where we're at. The next step, we're gonna go ahead and put it back on the hoop. The thread stand. You know, I probably should try one too. I've not gotten one, so it might be a good option. The next step here is we're just going to stitch out the box. It's going to show us where to place our elastic. Although this is going, knock on wood, this is going pretty well for one of my lives, so I'm not mad about it. So hopefully we can just kind of continue on. Let me get this re-threaded. Just make it through this design, and then I'll have to just get some better thread. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch out the box to show us where to place the elastic. And you know what, Ray? This is the needle the machine shipped with. So, see, if I was smart, I would have changed that out. But, yeah, I didn't do that. All right, so I don't know if you can see on mine. You can even see really where the purple is. It's right here. I should have used a better color for you. But the box is here, and that's going to tell us where to put the elastic. When we're putting the elastic, we're going to want to make sure that it is face up, so it's right side up. And we're just going to stitch it. We're going to put it in, and we're going to tape it so that one end of it, it's going to, so we're going to do the side on the right first, but it doesn't really matter. It's just my preference. So I'm going to stick it here in this box. I'm going to tape it in place. The short end of your elastic should be very close to the opposite edge of your box. So let me go ahead and just tape this down. Kind of centered in the box as much as I can with that short edge. I should have used a better color to show you all. But here is the end of the box there. I really should use a better color. And here's the end of my elastic, so it's really close to the end of that box. Hi, Kay. We're making an A6 size notebook cover. Great. So this first one's just going to stitch. It's going to tack down the first part of that elastic. Just make sure it's not going to grab it on me. I'm just going to stick my finger just to make sure that it shifted, and we're good. All right, so the first part of our elastic is tacked down. And I think this is the part that a lot of people kind of get confused about or seems more complicated. So here is where we are so far. So our elastic is now, if I take this off, our elastic is actually attached. It is inside that box. So Pierre, I like the new machine. It doesn't like my thread though. So with this part, we're gonna bring, I can show you, the other short end of this back over and kind of overlap it. So it's almost, the short end's almost to the top of the box now. And then we're gonna tape it really well. And once we have the end taped really well where it needs to be, we now need to make sure that we tape. So here's where I'm at now. I have that end taped down, but I also need to tape down the elastic so that it's out of the way when it stitches this box again to tack down this other side. This is why I said get lots of masking tape ready because you're going to need it for this. So I've got the ends secure with tape, and now I'm going to go in with more tape, and I'm just going to kind of just make sure that this is out of the way all around. Okay, so here's where I'm at. So it's going to stitch right inside here, but I have the ends of the elastic taped out of the way, so it's not going to hit anywhere when that next part of the box is tacked down. Okay, so this is where we're at, and we're actually going to go ahead and leave this. Once I'm done tacking this down, we'll leave the tape and stuff where it is, but this is our next step now. So we're going to pop it back on, and we're going to run the next step, and that's going to tack down the other side of our elastic. And again, I'm just kind of making sure the foot doesn't catch under the elastic as it goes. Oh, see, I'm going to stop it because it kind of drug it a little bit, and that's okay. I stopped it before that part of the design. So keep an eye when you're doing this. If it starts to peel back your elastic a little bit, just stop it and just kind of reposition it. Yep, now we're good. All right, so here is where we are. Both sides of our elastic are tacked down. Okay, so I have them overlapped there. Like I said, each side, so the first half is almost to the end of the box on the right side. And then when I overlap it, it's almost to the end here on this left side. You can see that. The difference in the A6 and the mini is just size, your hoop size and the size of the notebook. So this is an A6, like off of the camera. This is a mini, so when you put them together, this is kind of lined up here. Here's the size difference. All right, so we're here. We need to take our 2x2 piece, and this is going to go directly over where we just were. And we're going to tape that down into place. This is going to cover the elastic and then add some reinforcing to the elastic. So I'm just going to kind of tape this down. And again, it's super important that you have your elastic taped out of the way so that it's not caught when we go to this next part. So it looks kind of a mess right now, if you can see, but here is that 2x2 piece of fabric, or vinyl rather, that I used directly over that box. It's much bigger than the actual box is. This is just so you can get everything covered and centered, and we can trim it up once it's done. So. So this is our reinforcing stitching. Again, our elastic is taped way far out of the way of this little square. And sorry, I really should have used more like contrast stitching so you guys can see. Clearly I wasn't thinking. And this is just sewing that box in place, and then it's also adding an X, which is going to help reinforce that elastic. I've had people ask in the past, like, why I don't use a satin around this when I do some of the designs on the back. You don't really want to put a satin around some of this elastic. If it gets really dense, it can perforate that elastic, and eventually over time will kind of break off. So that's why I have a bean stitch there. But here it is. So I'm like way off here. Like, it's actually the right way now, and I'm confused. So here's our box, if you can see. And then here is our piece we tacked down. So what we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead and pull all this tape off. We'll have to retape our elastic, but we'll do it differently. And we are going to trim that box down. So grab your applique scissors. And here's where kind of the hard part is. I don't know if I can even get it to where you can see without anything. I'm going to lift up this box, and I'm going to trim down close to the sides. Just trim it up a little bit. So there's one side cut down. I gotta put it in my lap. So with this, just be really careful as you're going that you don't catch this elastic when you're stitching. So kind of pull this piece forward, the excess here on the top, and make sure that when you're going, you don't actually cut into your elastic. So that's why it's bigger, because it does make it easier to trim without having to worry about getting your elastic cut in there. So here is the other side. So two sides down. Again, on my third side, I guess I could have trimmed a little neater than that, but here we are. All right, so now that's three sides down. I'm just gonna trim this last part. Again, with this, make sure that when you're going, you kind of, I'm gonna show you my fingers here, maybe. All right, so again, we wanna make sure that we're pulling this top piece down as we trim, because we don't wanna get our scissors under there too far and cut that elastic. So make sure that you pull it down and you just trim that excess material right there without cutting into your elastic, or you would be very angry and you'd have to rip out stitches and it would be starting over the whole process again. Right, so here's my very crooked, but here we are. That's it. So that's really kind of the most complicated part, is getting that elastic in there. One thing I didn't mention, putting the elastic in, make sure you don't get it twisted. Make sure that it's going to look like this when it's done. You don't want that twisted up, or it's going to be twisted when it goes on. So here's where we are. I love this elastic. So now, because we're going to be stitching all around the outside of the hoop and down here on the sides for pockets and things, we want to make sure that this elastic is still all the way. So I'm kind of going to just bunch it up a little bit, and I'm going to tape it over there so it's just out of the way, so I don't have to worry about it getting caught in stitches later on. So take some more masking tape. It's your friend right now. And just tape that. It's going to look messy. It's fine. It's totally fine. All right, so we're just going to tape that now so it's out of the way, so as we stitch on, it's not going to get snagged and caught in any more lines of stitching. So from here, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and place our backing fabric down. So I chose to use Olifon. It's a little thinner. You don't really need something thick there. You really don't see the inside. You can use vinyl, same material as your front if you want to. I like to use this or felt. It's just kind of personal preference here. I've honestly usually used felt. I've never used the Olifon before, so I'm kind of nervous. I don't know how the 505 would work on that, so I'm going to tape this. And I'm just covering up all of those stitches. So making sure that's over, it's covering that whole square from the very first step that we did. My tape is being so difficult tonight. All right, so I am good. I am taped. Maybe as I'm going to get right now. So we're all taped like this on the back, and I'm going to pop this back on. And it's going to tack down that backing piece. You were much of about stitching and the thread isn't fraying in there. All right, so we're down the last two steps, and a couple words about the last two steps. So the next step that I have set up in here is tacking down the pockets that go on the back side, and the very last is that line that goes to the center. I know some people prefer to stitch that last step before they put their pockets down, because what that does, it helps you kind of line it up, but it's really personal preference. I kind of line it up on the sides, but that's just an option. If you really want to make sure you're not really sure about where you want to put them in there, I'll make straight, you can skip ahead and stitch the last step before you attach the pockets, but I'm going to go with how it is for now. So I'm going to go ahead and unhoop this. So here is where we're at now. Oh, look, that's great. Look, I didn't tape that very well. Can you see? Yeah. Oh, well, we're going to go with that. Clearly, I didn't tape it well enough. So with our pocket pieces, let's see, we are going to go ahead and place this over evenly if we can. We're going to place this over so it's going to cover our stitches on the outside. And these just get stitched around the outside edges, so the inside is free. So I like to tape the inside edge as well. wouldn't be one of my lives if I didn't mess something up, right? So, all right. Got one pocket mostly taped down. Let's see if I could have ironed my olifon. It wouldn't have gotten stuck on me because it would have been flat. But it's fine. All right, so it's a mess of tape back here, but here's what we have. So we have our pockets taped down. This inside edge will not stitch. It'll just be around the outside. So it's going to tack down all the outside edges. So again, you want to make sure that the edge here, you can see, is covering all those stitches up. And so we have kind of this gap here in the center. Yeah, the machine's working. I'm not working. All right, so we're going to pop that back in. And we're gonna go ahead and run. My tape is like peeling off. I don't want to get stuck back there. All right, we're gonna run this again to tack down those pockets around all edges. Oh, and if you are using vinyl on the pockets and it starts skipping on the back and it's dragging, you can throw a piece of tearaway stabilizer between your hoop and the vinyl to help kind of stop that drag. You can also use parchment paper, or if you have interfacing or stabilizer that comes with like tissue paper on the one side, you can use that too. If you are going to be using any of that stuff on the back to reduce that drag, I would recommend kind of adjusting the steps at the end. Go ahead and stitch out that second to last step first to put that middle seam in. That way you're not having to dig out stabilizer from in between those tiny stitches. Ask me how I know that. And honestly, I may change how I do these. I may go ahead and just change it to put that second to last step and move that to the end and put that center placement before the very last stitch over. I just haven't decided yet, but it seems to, it's a good reason to have it there. It's just how I did it, and people are, you know, jumping around, which is fine, because it does make a little more sense. Ray, this is a 6x10 hoop. So you need a minimum of a 6x10 hoop to do the A6 size covers, but you can do the minis on a 5x7 hoop. Okay, yeah, this is the Rose notebook cover. I can link up later. It's on the website, this particular one, but I have probably like, I don't know, maybe like 50 at this point notebook covers. So the assembly is the same on all of them. It's just that front design is going to be different. Oh, tape. Huh. It's like, why do you sound angry? Because you got tape stuck on you. All right, let's rip this off. And despite my little mishap there with my backing piece folding over on me, use your air. Here's where we are. So we've got the pocket stitched down. They're open here. Stitch all around the sides. We're going to put it back on, or you can leave it on for that matter. And we're going to run that like kind of the spine, will be the spine of the notebook. So, all right, so we're going to pop that back on, and we're just going to stitch down the last step. And like I said, you can, these last two steps, you can adjust as to what makes sense with you and what your preference is. There's no reason one has to be before the other here at the end, the last two steps. Oh, Melissa, this will be up in the events tab in the group too. So anyone that kind of jumped in late or isn't going to be able to, you know, obviously if they're not here, they're not hearing me say this, but it'll stay in the event tabs for forever. Or if you're like stitching later on and you get this and you get confused, it'll stay up in the group forever. And I really should have like picked more contrasting threads, but here we are. I make poor choices. I'm just stoked that, knock on wood, so far the worst error is that I had a folded up piece of material in the back. My 6-year-old won't care. All right, and that's it. We're done stitching. So now we just have to clean it up. So we're done. That's it. Here is the front, here is the back, and we will unhoop this and clean it up and put a notebook in it. Oh, a couple words on the notebook. So I found that like the A6 and mini like aren't necessarily a standard size. A6 isn't. So just go, when you see these, basically you just want to make sure that they're not too big for this. So you're going to have to cut them down. I'm like off angle here. So they can be a little bigger than I think maybe what I have on the website, but just make sure that they're not going to be too big for this notebook. So I know the sizes that I put on there will work for this, but they aren't standard. So you may find an A6 notebook on Amazon, but it might be slightly different than one you find, I don't know, it's like the dollar store or wherever. So just make sure you keep an eye on that too, that they aren't standard. So here's where we're at. I've unhooped it. I'm going to go ahead and just pull out the stabilizer, and then I'm going to trim it down. And I used tearaway on this. You can use cutaway on it too. It's going to be up in those seams. Like down here off camera, like pulling stabilizer out. All right, so here is where we are. Oh, I got some tape in there. Come on out of there. All right, so it looks messy now, especially since I caught my corner there, but we're gonna go ahead and trim this up. Normally I would use a rotary cutter and a ruler, but I'm gonna use scissors because I'm sitting here. So we're gonna go ahead and just trim those up. Just trim those, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so from the line of stitching. So here we are. Just trim that off, and we're just gonna go all around the sides. Obviously, just don't cut your elastic. My wonky stitches, or my wonky cutting rather. I think it's easier to cut straight when I do like curves and like smaller things. I don't know why, like I have the hardest time cutting in a straight line if I'm going for like a long time. And I really should have picked a better choice than cork in these colors, but all right, let's trim up stitches in here and we're done. I mean, that's it. So just fold that over. Your spine there is kind of, you'll see there's 3 lines there, and this, if you can see, because my poor choice of colors, there's 3 lines. That center line is just your center fold there where it folds right in half. You can't cut in a straight line in front of people. Yeah, maybe that's it too. I can't do it. The quilt behind the machine, no, that was, that's not Tula Pink. I can't remember who it was. Someone made that for me. I did a quilt swap a while back, and I knew the fabric line at some point, but I can't remember who it was. I totally forget, but I do love that quilt. So here's that, and then our elastic just folds over it. And that's it. So there's the front, which again, you can't see my design because I made a poor choice of materials, but, and then there is the back. When we put our notebook in it, there's the inside. Just open up the cover, slide this, slide one cover on one side, and then slide the back cover into the back pocket, and then kind of just center it, and yeah, you're all done. That's it. So again, it's really poor choices on my colors. You can't see them very well, but that's it. Back is our elastic, inside with our pockets. And the inside pockets might be really fun to do with like novelty vinyls and things like that, and just matching some of the FOE on the back of it too. So that would be fun. Like I said, I think the elastic is what kind of throws people the most, like about that part, but it's really not hard. Just more or less just keeping the elastic out of the way by taping it as much as you can so it doesn't get caught under stitching as you go. So that's it. That's it. And like I said, there is an add-on on the website. It's a free add-on to use a snap that you would actually, so before we stitch down that backing, what you would do is you would stitch out that snap design first. It's just like a tab. You would stitch that up first in another hoop, trim that up. And then what you would do is you would attach it to the, what's gonna be the back, so the side with the elastic on it. You would just kind of center that, and you would attach that there before, the same step essentially as when you're running that backing we did the ollie fun on. And then you would just add a snap here on the front, and that way you can just have that snap over on it if you don't like the elastic interfering with the design at all. So that's it. That's all I got. But they are fun and they're easy if you want to keep. I like the A6 size for like a grocery list or just kind of like doodles or whatever. If you're out and about, it fits in a handbag pretty well. But the small one, I don't have one handy right now. I don't run one of those. But the mini ones are great for like little kid coloring books too, little notebooks. My daughter has a bunch of these. When we got to eat, I handed her like some crayons on one of these, and she doodles and she's happy with that. So Nancy, there will be in the this will stay in the event tab, so when I close it out here, you can just go to the event and you can start it over. It'll stay there forever. So that's all I have. Any more questions that I can answer why I'm here? Hopefully that made sense, and they're not as scary as some people thought. So and they can run pretty quick, and you could even do it like blank too if you had some really fun fabrics, or not fabrics, but vinyls that you wanted to use. Again, anything non-fraying is going to work, and don't iron your ollie fun. So yes, and thanks for hanging out with me on a Saturday night, Tracy. So it's kind of like a live happening Saturday night here in front of the machine. So thank you, Carol. So we'll think of something for next week. So thanks, Joni. Thanks, Lorraine. We'll think of something for next week. So hit me up, like if you have some ideas of things that you want to see, if there's some parts of any designs that are confusing that you're not really sure of. We've got lots of things to go with, so just let me know what you think would be good to watch, and then I will talk about the group this week, and I will see you guys next weekend. Have a great week.